brim, to the brim, to the brim.
I like that. Grim to the brim.
It's good to be back in the studio with Kate Paint Potts. It's me, Davey Mustardface here. Got some more stories this week.
Well, I found one that made me giggle a bit, and it's called The Companionship of the Cat and Mouse.
Okay.
So it goes like this. A cat and a mouse wanted to live together, and so they set up a common household. They also prepared for the winter and bought a little jar of fat. But since they didn't know of a better and safer place to put it, they stuck it under the altar in the church, where it was supposed to stay until they needed it. Now, it was not long before the cat felt a craving for the fat and went to the mouse and said, "Listen, little mouse, my cousin has asked me to be godfather for her child. She gave birth to a baby boy, white with brown spots. I'm to hold him at the christening. Would you mind letting me go out today and take care of the house by yourself?" "No, no," answered the mouse. "Go there, and when you get something good to eat, think of me. I sure would like a little drop of that sweet red christening wine." But the cat went straight to the church and licked up the skin off the top of the fat. He then strolled around the city and didn't return home until evening. "You must have enjoyed yourself very much," the mouse said. "What name did they give the child?" "Skin Off," the cat answered. "Skin Off? That's a strange name. I've never heard of it before." Soon thereafter the cat felt another craving and went to the mouse and said, "I've been asked to be godfather once more. The child has a white ring around his body. I can't refuse. You must do me a favour and look after the house." The mouse consented, and the cat went and ate up half the jar of fat. When he returned home, the mouse said, "What name was this godchild given?" "Half Gone." "Half Gone, you don't say. I've never heard of such a name. I'm sure it's not on the list of proper baptismal names." Now the cat couldn't stop thinking about the jar of fat. "I've been asked to be godfather again for the third time. This child's all black and has white paws. Aside from that, there's not a white hair on his body. That only happens once every few years. You'll let me go, won't you?" "Skin Off, Half Gone," the mouse said. "Those really are curious names. I'm beginning to wonder about them. Even so, go ahead." The mouse cleaned the house and put it in order. Meanwhile, the cat ate up the rest of the fat in the jar and came home stout and stuffed late at night. "What's the name of the third child?" "All Gone." "All Gone? Hey now, that's the most suspicious of all the names," said the mouse. "All Gone? What's it supposed to mean? I've never seen it in print." Upon saying that, the mouse shook her head and went to sleep. Nobody called upon the cat to become godfather for the fourth time. However, soon winter came and there was nothing more to be found outside. So the mouse said to the cat, "Come, let's go to our supply that we stuck beneath the altar in the church." But when they arrived there, the jar was completely empty. "Oh," said the mouse, "now I know what's happened. It's as clear as day. You ate it all up when you went to serve as godfather. First the skin, then half, then—" "Shut up," yelled the cat. "One more word and I'll eat you up." All Gone was already on the tip of the poor mouse's tongue. No sooner did she say it than the cat jumped on her and swallowed her in one gulp. The end.
That cat's a real jerk, you know?
I just thought it was a bit weird that a cat got asked to be godfather and that the mouse actually bought it.
Like several times.
Yeah.
Also, this cat's a bit like, answers a bit too much to the mouse, you would think, like.
Is it okay if I go out?
You wouldn't catch Tom and Jerry doing that, you know. Those names are, he could have been a little bit more inventive, but he is a cat after all.
Why did the mouse not go, "Hang on a minute, don't normal litters have more than one cat? Would you not be godfather to several kittens?"
Why is it so interested? Like, why do you want to know the name? Who gives a shit?
Well, probably because he wanted to make sure it was on the list of baptismal names.
Why?
I don't know.
It's just bullshit in your mouth. You're being played. It's a lot more interest than I would show in something so tedious. I just wouldn't ask the name, but you know, this is a polite mouse. But it is a strange thing to say. Like, the only time I'm allowed to go out is when I'm a godfather.
It's christening.
Like, that's never happened to me, so I would never be allowed to go out. You know, there have to be other reasons to go out the house. I mean, it's not even like, even in lockdown, you don't need to be a fucking godfather to go out the house, you know.
And they didn't have anything else to eat other than a jar of fat that they hid at church.
Like, you dirty bastards. Like, where did you get that, for one thing? And why that? Like, as a food? You're just going to eat some fat? And
every time he snuck in, was he working between the christenings that were actually happening? Because it was stored in a church. It'd be really rude to interrupt a christening with.
Well, that's the narrative that the cat's paint. I mean, there aren't really any christenings probably going on. You know, it's COVID. And,
True.
You know, I think the gatherings are banned. But it is like a lockdown story, this. But it's also, it's like a weird, like, not domestic abuse, but like, it's like a weird relationship they have where this cat's like, I just want to eat and I can't go out unless I make up an absurd, like a crazy story 3 times though. Like, why not something else the other times? I'm gonna just, I don't know, I need to go shit outside. That's something cats do. So I'm gonna go out now, and I'll be back in a while.
Well, he was gone a long time though, wasn't he? He never came back till the evening. He was gone all day.
Well, what do you want us to do? I mean, am I supposed to just sit in this house the whole time? Chill, man. What? This mouse is a bit too possessive.
I agree with this.
And they both have a terribly unhealthy diet.
Just a tub of
what's
fat.
the mouse eating like? The mouse is just eating some whatever it finds around, and then the big time's going to come when it's going to eat a lot of fat.
I guess so.
Fucking dirty bastards, though.
I think the cat was driven to the brink anyway with the mouse, wasn't he, when he just ate it at the end? I mean, it's not a Grimm story unless there's a death at the end, but...
I'm at the end of my tether with you. I'm going to eat you and all. All gone, I would have said after I'd bit his head off. You bastard. It's a nice story about...
Death.
Well, it's about not being a greedy bastard, and it's also about not being too possessive, otherwise you'll get your head bitten off, you know. Just chill is the message, I think, there. Perry, just chill.
Yeah.
You're in lockdown together. You need to have healthy amounts of time apart, and you need to have a healthy, balanced diet. Otherwise, you'll just go mad. It's amazing that they were writing about COVID-19, considering how long ago it was. But it does seem very... I don't know if that's just how my mind's twisted now. Everything I hear sounds like it's set now during this pandemic. I mean, they probably had other things on their minds. So they lived under the church.
Did it say under the church, or they were just storing the...
They store it under the... Where do they live?
Oh, well, it said that they wanted to live together and they set up a common household. But it doesn't say where they actually lived, just that they stored the little jar of fat in the church under the altar.
It's a weird pairing of the two.
Why did they want to live together, yeah?
Like, where's the joy in it? Like, it's... the cat's not getting anything out of it, and the mouse is not getting anything out of it. It's just...
Even less so. I didn't even get its tub of fat.
No, like, that's all he wanted, apparently, for some reason. Just a tub of fat. Like, I can't think of a worse thing to eat, really. Like, it'd be pretty unpleasant.
Yeah, like a block of lard.
Well, I imagine it like, you know, when you get your goose fat from Tesco or whatever.
Just drinking that.
Just that. I'd imagine it is literally just that. And then this cat's like, well, I'm going to, you know, lick the skin off it and blah, blah, blah. You know, I think there was some stupid names and a lack of creativity. And I think the cat could have probably got away with it for a bit. Also, he's like, yeah, cool, let's go to the jar. This is going to be fun when he finds out. Is he planning to kill him at that point? Or is he just... I mean, he knew the mouse was going to kick off.
He could have made a story up like, oh, we've been robbed. But I don't think he was that smart.
No, because he's given him the plot away all the way through it.
Yeah.
In 3... like clanging hints. Could have said any name.
And even the mouse thought, geez, poor kittens.
Yeah, the strange names. They don't even sound like names. They sound like it's... And it took them 3 whole ridiculous names to get it.
Yeah.
This cat's coming back like greasy and full of fat.
The mouse is pretty dumb, really. I mean, when it's like, so what was the kitten's name? And he's like half gone. Like if you were the mouse, you'd be like, are you high right now? I asked you a question. Answer the goddamn question. What was the kitten's name? Like, I would have just thought the cat would be tripping balls or something. All gone.
Why are they christening all these cats?
I don't know.
Who's doing it? Who's arranging it? I mean, I've never had to book a christening, but like there's some planning involved, and it's probably a bit of a pain in the ass. You're going to do it every day.
Well, yeah, given that, you know, litters, they can have like up to 10 kittens.
The relationship was really depressing, and I'm glad it's over.
Are you glad that the cat had the last word?
I shouldn't think that the mouse deserved to get its head bitten off or whatever, or get eaten. But I was just so irritated by the whole situation that I just thought, yeah, fuck this mouse, you know?
I just feel like this story is ringing home a bit too true for you.
You know what? We had a situation recently with some hobnobs. Basically, she bought some hobnobs. I didn't have any money. It was the end of the month. And she said, these are mine. Don't eat them. So then she goes, I'd already had a couple of them at this point. Then she went to bed and she was like, mine, don't eat them hobnobs. I ate, not all of them. I left about 2 or 3 in the pack.
Wow.
You know, as a token gesture. She gets down in the morning and I'm like, listen, I'll buy you some more hobnobs. You know, I ate your hobnobs. So she's really annoyed and basically didn't speak to us all day. So I went to Co-op and bought some more hobnobs and I put them in the kitchen, and you know what? She still hasn't fucking eaten them. So it's irritating. It's like, I actually eat biscuits when you buy them and you just get them and leave them like as a trap for me. Like, what's the deal? You're worse than that fucking mouse. You know what?
This is exactly why I was thinking this story is ringing true for you. So the next story is called Hans's Trina. Hans's Trina was lazy and didn't want to do any work. She said to herself, what should I do? Should I eat, sleep or work? I think I'll eat first. After she'd stuffed herself fully, she said to herself again, what should I do? work or sleep? I think I'll sleep a little first. Then she lay down and slept, and when she woke up it was night, so she could no longer go out and work. One time, Hans returned home at noon and found Trina sleeping again in their room. So he took his knife and cut off her dress at the knees. Trina awoke and thought, it's time now to go to work. However, when she went outside to work and saw that the dress was so short, she became frightened and wondered whether she really was Trina. And she said to herself, am I or am I not Trina? She didn't know how to answer this question and stood there a while in doubt. Finally, she thought, you should go home and ask if you are. They'll know for sure. So she returned home, knocked at the window and called inside, is Hans's Trina inside? Since the others thought she was in her usual place, they answered, yes, she's lying down in her room and sleeping. Well, then I'm not me, Trina said in delight. So she went off to the village and never returned. And this is how Hans got rid of his Trina.
What the What is a Trina? What is it a Trina or is it someone called Katrina?
No,
she's shortened her name.
She's like Trina. Her name is Trina, yeah, so I guess she's just...
Am I me? My dress is a little bit shorter than it was. I mustn't be me. Fucking hell, man. She's not all there.
She's not.
I was all on board with it. I was like, you know what? She's like me. She eats and sleeps and doesn't do any fucking work. That's me all over. But then she just went a bit stupid about it. Like, so he's pissed off. And to be fair, it's a bit abusive of him to come in and be like, you lazy bitch, I'm going to cut your dress. Like, get fucking locked up for that.
It worked, though, if he wanted rid of her.
Is that what it was? So he wanted to get rid of her. So he thought, if I cut her dress, she won't know who she is. And then she'll just roll away.
Yeah.
Like, is that really... Like, did he believe that was going to happen? Because I've cut the sleeves off my T-shirts before and I still know I'm me, you know? Like, no amount of fabric alteration would confuse us to that amount that I wouldn't know it was me.
I guess he just... Trina must be really, really numb. And Hans must have thought, fucking hell, I got to be shot of her. And then when she just wandered off by herself, he didn't even have to kill her. He was like, oh, I dodged a bullet.
So why would he think, though, that just cutting her dress would make her forget who she was and then wander off?
I don't know. It doesn't say how long they've been married. Maybe he's known her for 20 years and knows that she's that much of an idiot it would have worked. I don't know why he didn't do it 20 years ago.
But is this something that happens to other people? Like, I mean, I don't know. Is it because she could see her knees and she just thought, well, I've never seen these before, so I must be a different person. Like, I thought I was me, but I can see that my knees are a little bit more exposed than normal, so I mustn't be me. I'll tell you that. How's she going to survive or live the rest of her life? Like, when she can't even... She's all full of joy and she's on her way out into town. But how would she even function at that point? Like,
she's the village idiot, I guess.
I guess so. That was a bit of a wild story. That, like, it's short, but very, very
odd,
disturbingly odd.
Yeah.
Like, what work is she gonna do?
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really say what it doesn't have her CV attached, so I don't know her skill set really.
Admin assistant. I think if you've got something to do it while you're hungry. That's the only way I get anything done. If I'm going to clean the house, I'm starving while I'm doing it, because if I eat, I just won't want to.
You get a food coma, don't you?
Yeah, and then I would go to sleep, and then I'd have to, you can't just do things in that order. You've got to work, then eat, then sleep. I'm a real person with real knees, and I'm not frightened of them, you know. Was she asleep and he just cut all around it? It's just not a direction I would have gone in. I would have probably said, wake up, you know, I've not done anything. Not like, I'll sneak under the duvet, I'll take this very sharp knife, I'll cut exactly 4 inches off the bottom of her skirt, and then she'll leave. What a stupid story.
Yes, it is.
There's only so much you can say about it, but it's just annoying.
Because it made you angry, David.
I mean, the first one made us angry, but this one it's more just a confusion for this poor woman. Like, what? She needs looking after.
I kind of think she got what she deserved. She was an idiot.
Like, if I walk past my window, is David in? Yeah, he's in. I would be like, well, obviously they haven't checked, because I'm David and I'm outside. So that's a little trick there that I've learned. If I'm outside, then David isn't in, because I'm David. But obviously no one taught her that. It's a sad story about... It's just about mental illness, really, isn't it? Like, someone who's a vulnerable person and wasn't looked after, you know. You're
reading way too much into this story.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we have to do, isn't it? To understand them, to break down the genius of these Grimm's lads.
The genius, indeed.
Well, they must have been clever, because we're still talking about them, you know.
True. Maybe we're still talking about them because of their weird-ass stories.
Yeah, that's true. But I suppose at the time it must have been like, oh, brilliant, cutting-edge stuff. Rest of the stories are just like, I ate a grape and then I went to sleep. And then these lads are like, well, this woman, right, she would, someone cut her dress off and she forgot who she was. And people are like, mind-blowing, get these lads published. Like, that's heavy stuff for us. We used to just grape stories, that's it.
So this one is called The Stubborn Child. Once upon a time, there was a stubborn child who never did what his mother told him to do. Therefore, the dear Lord did not look kindly upon him, and he became sick. No doctor could cure him, and in a short time he lay on his deathbed. When he was being lowered into his grave and was covered over with dirt, one of his little arms suddenly emerged and reached up into the air. They pushed it back down and covered the dirt with fresh dirt, but that didn't help. The little arm kept popping out, so the child's mother had to go to the grave herself and smack the little arm with a switch. After she did that, the arm withdrew, and then, for the first time, the child had peace beneath the earth. The end.
Is that the... oh, fucking hell. Okay, so she just thinks, like, he's not alive. It's just he's been an arsehole, and I don't have to get him out of the grave for being alive. I just have to smack his arm down. That's the solution.
Or maybe he was just a little shit and she was just like, I can't deal with him actually being alive, so I'm just going to pretend that he isn't. And I'm just going to beat him until he's suffocated to death in this little grave.
Wow. You were my son, everything was cool, and then you died, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go to Benidorm and just forget all my troubles. And then he's like, I'm alive? Oh no, I'd already planned for some other life now. Just smack that arm down and away you go. Most people are a bit stubborn.
Well, it says he never did what his mother told him to do.
Right, so he was a bad kid.
So God punished him.
God punished him.
Therefore, the dear Lord did not look kindly upon him and he became sick.
Right. Okay, so I suppose they're trying to get a bit religious there and just say, be good kids, otherwise you'll die. And not only will you die, but even if you're not dead, your mother won't want you to be alive and she will smack you back into your grave. So just do the dishes,
Basically, in essence, that is the moral of the story, yeah. There is a lot of stories in here about lazy children and lazy men and lazy women. There's an awful lot of lazy people in the Grimm stories.
It's scary. As a lazy person, I can relate to these characters, and then they just go through this horrific stuff. Just seems.
Yeah, they get buried alive.
Not only buried alive, but like you. I mean, when you say he's like his arm came up through, like, was he not in a coffin? Then he's just straight up in the ground.
I guess so, yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like his mum really gave a shit much about him anyway, so maybe she just thought, it's extra money for me if I don't pay for a coffin, just stick him in a hole.
Stick him in a hole and off to Benidorm.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. How can you enjoy your life after being so harsh, I mean, it's only guilt-free if he's not still alive. If he dies, then fair enough. It's a bit harsh that you've thrown him in the ground without a coffin, but if he's still alive, you've got to do something. You can't just smack him back in. That's making you a murderer then, I would say.
I would definitely say she was a murderer. She suffocated her child to death by burying him alive, yeah. No, I would agree with that.
I don't know what he was sick or like what his illness was. I assumed it was like the flu at first and then he just died. It just came very suddenly. Like in them days, get a bit of a cough and that was you done.
Yeah, or maybe he just fell asleep.
But then all this God not taking kindly on him, is that just the mother trying to like justify it? Was it the mother that told them the story?
Probably, I would say so.
If we met her in Benidorm, we were at an all-inclusive resort. She was a bit drunk and let out too much at the end of the story. We called the authorities and she's in prison now. That would have been a better ending than just the end after, like, she just went back in her house and sat down. That was it. It was just too abrupt, that ending.
Typical Grimms, just abruptness.
Typical Grimm abruptness.
Yeah.
It's just they don't like to cheer people up. Like, how about something a bit more jolly from them ever? Like, even their good stories are like pretty miserable.
I don't think there's a single happy Grimm story, actually. Their name helped.
Right.
But they were Jacob and Wilhelm, I think, Grimm. Maybe that's where the word comes from. Maybe it's the word Grimm never actually existed until, like they did a thing. They wrote a book and everyone was like, oh, that sounds like a Grimm story. Oh, and then it just got shortened to that's Grimm.
That's a Grimm. I've had a horrible day. Was it like something out of a Grimm's? Yes. Well, then say you've had a Grimm day and we'll make that a word now. Some research into that would be interesting but also tiring, and I'm just too lazy. Well, I'm going to cut my trousers off. It was bothering us, like, my Trina. It's like, what, have you got a Trina? Should we all have a Trina? What is a Trina? Like, then it was just a person called Trina.
Yeah. Just his wife or his girlfriend or something.
My Trina. Like, it just sounds like a possession, you know. Where the hell's my Trina? Fucking hell, man.
It sounds like a fidget spinner or something.
Oh, I thought it was more like a gardening tool or a trellis or something. Like, it's Trina. My Trina. I've lost my Trina.
Yeah, no, I get that, yeah.
I'm a hedge Trina.
Yeah. I get that, yeah. I like that.
Yeah. He treated her like a hedge.
I mean, she acted like one.
I suppose, well, if you want to put it that way, yeah. You act like a hedge, I'm going to treat you like a hedge, Trina. We get the hedge trimmers out. All right, so that's three official stories. Yeah. Which we've mulled over. So let's do this new Reel to the Breel segment. Reel to the Breel.
Oh, wow, that was magical.
Yeah, it's all right, that. I should introduce the segment and just say, like, these are some stories that are from our real lives that we've spun into Grimm's style fairy tales. And then I don't know if you should just tell the story and then we'll explain what really happened.
In this Reel to the Breel segment, this story is based on a time that my mum and my stepdad had a huge fight because my mum had gone to the dentist and she had a tooth removed and she'd been given Novocaine for pain relief. And she came home and then proceeded to drink a bottle of red wine, which, you know, you don't mix Novocaine and wine. It's a bad thing. And she just kind of was possessed. And my stepdad, who is, you know, about 8 foot, built like a brick shit house, was absolutely terrified of my mum tearing around the house. And he barricaded himself in the bedroom and then rang me to come and save him. But I was too tired, so I didn't.
Yeah. So he just had to get over it.
He just had to get over it. He just had to wait, till it wore off in the morning. It was especially bad because she'd had such a big dose of it from having I think it was a wisdom tooth out or something like that. Yeah. And so they gave her like a massive dose of it. And then, you know, she drank a full bottle of red wine. So I guess it just...
That full bottle of red wine thing is becoming more and more of an everyday thing for me now. Like, it used to be like, oh, she drank a whole bottle of... That's a normal amount.
Yeah, I'm like that.
But with the Novocaine.
Right, okay, so the Grimm version of that real-life episode. There once lived a king and queen who lived happily in their grand castle, resplendent with high ceilings, vast rooms, and a plentiful supply of cats for them to fawn over. One day, the queen complained to the king, "Oh, I've got a frightful toothache. Whatever shall I do?" The king scoured the land and hired the best tooth doctor for his beloved queen, and the good man set to work straight away removing the awful tooth that was ailing the queen so. The pain was too great for the queen, and so the tooth doctor asked his friend, who was a witch woman, if she could give the queen something to ease her distress. "Why, yes," the witch woman exclaimed. "I have just the thing, my dear. Here, swallow this. It is potent magic called Novocaine." The magic was potent indeed, as it removed all of the queen's pains and cares that instant, and she rode home in her carriage, quite happily cured. The king was happy to see his wife at last free from pain, and they spent a quiet few hours by the fire, sipping wine, which had been imported by the peasants from Italy. The witch woman was an evil woman, however. This the tooth doctor did not know, and she had not told the queen of the awful curse which befell those who used the Novocaine magic. Within a few hours the queen would turn into a terrifying monster and eat those she loved. Shortly before it was time for them to retire to bed, the king noticed that the queen was acting strangely. Within moments the queen let out a shrieking scream and dove at the king, her fingers turning into claws which would tear out his eyes. She chased him around the castle, her eyes blood red, her screams so loud that the peasants in the village below could hear her. "I will kill and eat you," the queen screamed. The king, terrified, ran to his bedroom and locked the door. He pushed a big dresser in front of the door and barricaded himself in. He'd never seen magic so vile and did not know what to do. Luckily for the king, there was a magic mirror in his room, through which he could speak to anyone he chose to. He asked the magic mirror if he could speak to the princess, who was the queen's daughter and the king's stepdaughter. The mirror showed the princess's face, and she was dishevelled at being woken at such a late hour. The king asked her for her help. He was perplexed and did not know how to break the curse, but the princess did not know either. The king could hear the royal heirlooms being smashed about the castle, and the queen still screaming and scratching at the door to his room. She ripped all of his finest gowns to tatters and tore all the pages out of his most precious books in his library. The townspeople below had heard the terrifying cries of distress coming from the castle and rushed to aid the king, armed with pitchforks and shovels. They entered the castle and were met with a hideous, inhuman monster which they slaughtered. The monster began to glow before turning back into the queen it had once been. The townsfolk were despondent. The queen had been much loved. The king never recovered from his fright and loss and died shortly thereafter. Now, obviously, my mum and stepdad are still alive, very much so, but it's not a Grimm story unless everybody dies at the end.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, that's a slight exaggeration. I think he was pretty bit miffed, but I don't think he died.
He was a little bit miffed. It's not Grimm's if they don't die.
No. I mean, she did cut up his books.
She did.
I've seen The Mirror. Basically, I like that the daughter's like, I need your help. I need to break this terrible cat. I don't know how to help. Okay, then, bye.
That's basically what happened.
That was just too real.
Yeah.
When he said like, I will kill and eat you, I was like, is that a direct quote though? Because that could have been
probably
from that night, that specific night.
But she did, yeah. She ripped. He had first print signed editions of Terry Goodkind books, and yeah, she ripped all the pages out and cut his dressing gown up.
She cut his dressing gown up.
Yeah, there was plates and stuff smashed all over the house, and like bolognese up the wall and all sorts, and he was just more concerned about his books. The house was trashed, but they were valuable.
It's messed up that she went to the shelf and was like, I'm going to destroy these books. Like of all things, like you just, yeah, fair enough, smash the house up because it's in your way and you're angry. But to go to his favourite things and be like, I'm going to cut the pages out of these specifically, that's messed up. That's like a weird thought process that she had.
Well, to be fair, it was lucky that he'd barricaded the cats in the bedroom with him because the cats might have bought it.
That would have.
So it's lucky it was just the books.
That would have been a little twist in the story. I don't think he would have recovered from that.
He wouldn't have. He would have become despondent and died shortly thereafter.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened. It's real to the
It
real.
is real. Real to the brill.
I like that story is better than all the stories we've heard tonight. You just come up with it after one evening's drinking, went wrong. If it just shows you how much like effort it took for them to write the stories that they wrote. Just like, what happened? Oh yeah, I fell down the stairs and broke my ankle. Right, let's spin that into fucking Cinderella.
Yeah, like legit. This, I had a glass of wine and it was about 15-20 minutes or something, and knocked that up.
Like, what the hell were they such a big deal for, these lads?
For years, they were writing this book for years.
Unless they had to scratch it into something, like into wood or something, carve it into things. That would have been more of a challenge. Like, they didn't have a laptop in front of them.
I mean, but they're trying to be professional writers. They need to get good and get quick at however they choose to record this. Yeah.
They could have put more effort in, I think. I feel like mine doesn't really count because it didn't really happen. It was a dream.
Yeah, but it's still funny. This is a dream that Ali had. There was once a woman who gave birth to an enormous child, almost twice the size of a normal baby. What's more bizarre is the child was born 3 months prematurely, but seemed otherwise very healthy. Unfortunately, they had a tendency to be very fidgety and squirmed a lot. The mother of the child would try her best to hold on to the child, but would inevitably drop them. Each time they fell, they shrunk in size until they were only as big as a marble. One day, the mother was trying her best to hold on to her now tiny child, and she sneezed, dropping the child somewhere in her home. The floors were covered in straw to protect the child from harm, but unfortunately the child was so small they were nowhere to be seen. The mother searched for hours in the mess of the straw but never found the child. The end.
That's about the right amount of abruptness for the ending. Yeah, I don't know. That was a messed up dream. I didn't have the dream personally, but I guess she was thinking about having a baby. Yeah,
I guess she was. Just one that she was frightened that if she sneezed, she would lose.
The thing is with the story is like, even though it was premature, she still had the agony of giving birth to a large child, So she didn't win anything by that.
No.
Still had the bad experience and then just lost them, which is, I guess, what most mothers would be most distressed by, is losing them.
It's kind of ironic, though, that you're going through the stress and pain of giving birth to this huge baby, which then only ends up being the size of a marble.
If only it was the other way around.
Yes.
You could do that on your lunch hour.
You could.
That's what's so irritating. To be honest, it's like, it's an insult, really.
It is,
Not that the child's doing it deliberately, unless they are in this case. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to ask. But it's messed up. I mean, my dreams at that time were like, probably about stealing biscuits or something, and then this was like she just tells me that before we have breakfast. It's a messed up night she's had.
I mean, she's been reading too many Grimms, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, we're the ones that are reading it all, and my dreams are just dumb, peaceful dreams. Like, I was driving a car around, and it was fun, and then I wake up and have my breakfast, whereas she'll be having babies all night,
She's knackered, because not only has she been giving birth to the hugest baby known to man, but then she lost the fucker because it turned into the size of a marble.
Straw would have been my first thing, and that's probably my fault that there was so much straw in the house, And to all of you people out there, thanks for listening to Grimm to the Brim.
Grimm to the Brim.
Grimm to the Brim to the Brim.
I like that. Grimm to the Brim. Just go and live happily ever after.